what's up, everybody? This is Case Study QB, and we are the Political Junkies. I'm back with a veteran OGPJ in the building, Imani Oakley, aka Fox Soul, and I'm gonna show a clip soon of where that inside joke is from. But let me just say what's up to David. We got Big Punish back. Dave's going to be joining us. There's a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're going to get that resolved. But the first thing I want to do is show where this Fox Soul inside joke is from. Let me see, where is it at? There we go.
OMG, here we go. OMG, here we go.
I always love Bernie, and to point out that no one complained for tax breaks for billionaires and millionaires. He's absolutely right. It's super quiet when it's benefiting them, but when it's the rest of us that may benefit a little bit, all up in arms.
Absolutely.
I just can't believe the Republican Party is being so petty when it's waiting for the entire country. I said it once, I said it again. Right?
Nice. So let me take it off. Yeah, so this is a clip that I clipped, and me and Imani just got in the DMs, and he's like, what is this Fox show? What is this show about? Like, it's called The Black Report. It's so on the nose.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The Black Report. Like, what could that be about, you know?
And it's hilarious.
Yeah, what you thought of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was saying it's hilarious because they took it so serious. Like the planning for that, like I know there was a conference room and a PowerPoint where they're like super serious, Fox Soul, this will get them.
Zit.
Yeah.
Zit.
Yeah. I was like, in my clip, I was like, that's the only time you hear Fox giving praise to Bernie is on this channel called Fox. All right, so we're going to be I'm going to introduce Imani, and she's going to talk to us about her new position at TYT. Right, that's an interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing about her being the campaign organizer for TYT, and then later on we're going to play some clips. We're going to talk about how the mainstream media is just having propaganda for the monarchy and how all this praise. You know, this is a country that we fought a revolution to get out of. And here, all these years later, we're just giving so much praise to the Queen, and we're going to talk about that. And then also, I want to talk a little strategy. I was talking today, and we were on the Brianna Joy Gray call-in show, and we was talking a little strategy about the presidential election in 2024. And I personally don't think, as leftists, as grassroots organizers, we have to start as early as possible. So I don't mind having these conversations. We don't have the luxury that mainstream establishment Democrats have to have all the money donors in one room like a year or two before and just launch their plan. We got to plan this stuff early, so I don't mind having this discussion. We're going to do that later on. So without further ado, let me give the floor to my buddy Imani as she talks about her new position at TYT.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm the new campaign organizer at TYT. It is awesome. Basically, what TYT is trying to do, we've all seen this over the past couple of years where the right is taking their viewership online and, all the online podcasts and online news sources of the right. And what they're doing is they're getting their people to go out in the world and do real things, real destructive things. And so, TYT being the largest online news network as well as the oldest online progressive news network, they're saying, okay, you know what? We want our followers to go out in the real world and do good things in the positive direction. And so it's my job to help TYT lead folks in that direction, lead our viewers and our audience in that direction. And I am extremely happy to do so, especially because we actually do have, it's like you said, Case, we have 2024 coming up. We really gotta, hunker down and be sure that we're ready for that. So happy to be there. Disclaimer though, anything I say today is I'm only representing myself. Just wanted to tell you guys who I am and what I do. But anything I say on this show today is only representing me and only me. I cannot hear you, Case. I think you might have cut out.
My bad. I muted myself. My bad. So as a campaign organizer, I'm using this my imagination of what that can be. And I think I did see a tweet that you went to, I think Daily Coast convention in Chicago.
No, I went to Netroots in Pittsburgh.
Netroots. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think they changed their name. Actually, it used to be Daily Coast, I believe, and now it's Netroots. And can I ask you about that? First of all, I didn't even know that it happened. Like I found out maybe weeks after it happened. I'm like, this event even happened. For some reason, I watch a lot of clips and a lot of independent media. I just did not see that talked about. So can you tell us a little about Netroots?
Yeah, Netroots has been around for a while. It's a gathering of people who are, left of center. Some people would say full leftist, but there are people there who I would describe as center left or more moderate. And gathering there and exchanging strategy ideas, exchanging training. Excuse me. Also, we got to hear from some people who are doing real big stuff in the movement. We got to hear from the Amazon Labor Union and also their leader, Christian Smalls, which was awesome. And we also got to attend actually a protest because there were some workers who were protesting actually in Pittsburgh while we were there. So we joined them for that. I thought it was a real great time. It was actually my first time at Netroots because I was supposed to go in 2020, and then we all know what happened in 2020. Pandemonium. So this was actually my first time there. And I really loved it. I also got to meet my TYT coworkers for the first time. So that was cool too. So I had a great time.
Okay. So as the TYT's organizer, are you actually going to be interacting with like progressive candidates, or is your job to put pressure on Democrats, period, like strategize to do that? Like, I'm just curious, is going to be your focus in this job?
Yeah, for sure. So, because we're building this out, this is brand new. So at the, tail end of it, hopefully we'll be doing all of the above, right? But right now, my focus mostly is on organizing people. I think, personally, I believe that we have gotten to a space where we're really leaning into kind of like the candidates and like these people who are in the papers and these big name folks, but we have to give actual like everyday people. Like I'm talking people who don't even like do stuff like this, right? Like people who are regular as hell. They come home, they put their feet up, they watch like, a TV show, they maybe tune into the, presidential every year, every, cycle that it comes around. But for the most part, they're regular degulars, right? I think it's about time that we refocus back on them and giving them the tools that they actually need to organize. I think we've done a great job of, making our movement heard, of getting our movement in the media, of getting our ideas out there, and really actually getting quite a lot of support for our ideas. But we have to do the next step, which is take it through the finish line. And I don't think we're going to be doing that until we actually give everyday folks the tools and the know-how that they need in order to bring it through. So, right now in these beginning stages of this job, because again, it's a new program at TYT, I'm focusing on building up the people. Again, the everyday people, the everyday viewers for TYT, the audience, building them up, bringing some more people in, and then helping them get the skills that they need to understand what they need to do next and how to do it when it comes to getting these progressive issues across the finish line.
Is there a particular state that you're starting in? I know you're New Jersey based like myself. Are you starting off in a state, or you're going nationwide out the gate?
Nationwide out the gate, baby. Nationwide out the gate.
Okay, cool. So just let the audience know how they can reach you, or what's the way that they can organize with whatever you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we are actually running a petition on the TYT website. Go to tyt.com/petitions. Go there, sign the petition where we're asking Nancy Pelosi to not force progressives to vote no on must-pass legislation because of the pipeline permits that Joe Manchin wants. Go there first. Sign that petition. And when you sign that petition, you're going to also be giving us our email, and you'll be up to date with everything that we do with regards to campaigns and organizing at TYT. So again, that website is tyt.com/petitions. Go there first. Tell Nancy Pelosi to stop forcing progressives to vote no on must-pass legislation. Stop, bowing down to Joe Manchin. And then you will be on our list to make sure that, that you can get any updates that we have coming up.
Awesome. So we're definitely going to talk about Joe Manchin, and we're going to bring up that topic later on. Before I move on, anybody else have any questions for Imani, or even in the chat, anybody have any questions? Much love to you, PJ Holly. Day, you're muted. I can't hear you, Day. Or I don't know if he's muted or what, but
can you hear me now?
So Day.
There we go.
Yeah, can hear you now. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. So my question would only be, and I apologize if in the beginning I missed this portion. What are your tangible goals, or what is it that you guys hope to accomplish by the end of the 2024 cycle?
Yeah, so we really want to give people the tools they need to run their own campaigns. So, because we are a nationwide facing outlet. And so what we want to do is make sure, listen, maybe TYT isn't covering this thing that's in your area of New Jersey, but we want to give you the tools and everything that you need in order to do that yourself, to be able to build a coalition with our resources and as much help from us as you can to be able to actually go out and do real things in the world and make real impact. So our goal is less about being kind of like the Pied Pipers, like we're going here, you go here too. It's less about mobilizing and more about traditional organizing, which, we tend to conflate the two when it comes to what we do now. But you need to organize before you can mobilize. You need to give people the tools they actually need to actually know how to challenge power before you can call them and say, go here and go there and do this. And then, not for nothing, but we aren't czars, right? We want to, while we do run campaigns, and we will be running the one similar to Nancy Pelosi campaign that we have up now and others, and we would like people to help us out. We also want to give people the power and empower people to run campaigns that they think are the most important in their area. If you want to help us out, that's cool, but our real goal is empowering people to get out and run campaigns of their own, have the knowledge and the skills and the know-how and the resources to do so, so that we can really bring different initiatives through the finish line. So that's really what we're looking at. Again, it's not so much issue-based as it is skills-based and giving people resources that they need to get different things through the finish line.
Got you. So is that why it differs, I guess, from like say the Justice Democrats, for example, is because it's not less about the candidate end goal. You're more about the input versus the output.
That's correct. Yeah, it's less about any candidate, but also less about any issue. It's really more so about training up our people in the progressive movement to make sure they're going out, and when they do go out, to challenge power in whatever way they choose, whether that be through Medicare for all, whether it could be an electoral campaign, right? They choose to run for office themselves or run somebody else for office or what have you, that they'll have the tools to be able to do so, and they can help with our resources through the site, but they can also help us out with any campaigns we may choose to, announce that we're working on. So it's a little bit of both, but mostly we want to empower everyday people to get out into the real world and make real impact. That's really what we're focusing on.
I love it.
Well, I know they got the right person for the job. I remember you were the dean for movement school. You also ran for office in the District 10, so you have experience working with the community and starting your own organization from the ground up. So I wish you a lot of success in your new position. All right. So now we're going to move on to the next topic, which is basically about the monarchy and how this is a clip of Hannity providing propaganda cover for the monarchy. Let's go.
Sadly, the unhinged woke left, they cannot help themselves, and they're using the Queen's death to launch baseless smear campaigns against the entire royal family, including this tweet from a professor at Carnegie Mellon. Quote, "I heard the chief monarch of a thieving, raping, genocidal empire is finally dying. May her pain be excruciating." Now, Twitter even took the tweet down, saying it violated their terms of use. But the professor then doubled down on this posting, saying, "If anyone expects me to express anything but disdain for the monarch who supervised a government that sponsored the genocide that massacred and displaced half my family, well, you can keep wishing across a star." And of course, the mob and the media, they're using the Queen's death to spew even more hate against the royal family. Take a look.
You played a clip.
All right, so I'm about to actually play that clip, but we see how Hannity, you would think it would be kind of unpatriotic to be praising the monarchy, the place where we had a revolution against, and this guy is all about, being a patriot and all these different things. Like, I'm gonna play that clip, the real clip, in a second, but what you guys think about it? Give me some first reactions to this.
Where's the lie? Yeah.
Yeah,
I was looking up the other day. I was curious about like what's going to happen with her wealth and what's going to happen with her assets. So the queen was worth $500 million. When she died, and the royal family is actually worth $28 billion. And so when I think about like, where did that money come from? Well, it came from their colonies that they stole from. And so I was like, are they also going to be giving back a lot of the stuff that they've collected from that's currently in the British Museum? No. So I was like, a lot of these quote unquote assets around like the jewels and all this stuff, a lot of this was stolen from other countries. And so, so I was like, I just think it's interesting. And I was like, I don't see the lie.
No, 100%. Matter of fact, let me just show real quick this tweet that shows there's only 22 countries that have that never was invaded by Britain. Now I know you can't make it out, but I'm not going to go through all the countries. But imagine that only 22 countries that was not invaded by Britain. So of all the countries in the world, that there's only 22 that can honestly claim they were not invaded. It boggles the mind.
Yeah, wow. And I was talking with a friend the other day too, and I had never heard this saying, but now it's like stuck in my head about like the sun never sets on the British Empire. And I was like, oh my gosh, like now, well, first of all, are we the new British Empire with all of our military bases all over the world? But I thought that was it.
Yeah, and also to answer your question, not only, I think that Britain should probably pay more reparations, and I heard they've paid like 30 million here and paid a couple of reparations here and there. But not only that, but here's another. I'm going to show this article real quick, just the headline. I'm not going to go through it, where it says why King Charles will pay 0 inheritance tax on the Queen's private fortune. So at the very least, he should be paying taxes on the fortune. Go ahead, Day. I think Day, it looked like you wanted to say something.
I'm just laughing because I'm like, shocking. I mean, who would have thunk it that the same country that's essentially the founder of this country always ensures that rich people never have to pay any taxes when they acquire wealth. But God forbid you own property, you better pay taxes on it. It's laughable. But I will say the one part I disagree with, and puts me in the minority. I enjoyed all of Black and Irish Twitter. I'm not even going to pretend like I didn't. But I did not agree with like make her pain excruciating to die. I'm not a masochist, so I'm like, she didn't have to have like a horrible death. She did. So like, take the, I don't want to say win, but just take it for what it is. And so that part I would say was a little egregious, but no tears are crying.
Imani, that's why right there, almost every episode I say we need Day to run for something. This dude, he's got his talking points down. But let me go to you, Imani.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, it's interesting seeing this from like an organizer's eye standpoint. One thing that's always talked about constantly is like solidarity, whether that's racial solidarity, cultural solidarity. And what was very interesting about this is whether people were mad at the monarchy because, they took economically from their country, or whether they were mad at the monarchy for any like racist laws they forced upon their country or anything like that. You saw things like Black Twitter, Irish Twitter, Indian Twitter. You saw everybody come together, and maybe they were saying some turned up things, but I think big picture wise, what that shows is all these assumptions about how we can't come together and talk about different things because, well, this group will get mad, this group won't. We can talk about everything. And if it's the right issue, guess what? We're coming together and we're going hard on it. I mean, I think it was a pretty interesting, like almost experiment a little bit to see actually power can be challenged. We can talk about all of these things that people try to say you can't talk about together, and everyone can actually get on board. So I was interested by everything that was going on. Like from a like, how can we push the movement forward stance? Like, I think that gave us quite a bit of insight, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. Big pun.
Yeah, okay. So we fight for independence from this monarchy, and now we're all sad because we're sad because we know how to run the same business. We've been doing it So we know what's up. I mean, you're sad. Everybody, writing condolences. Listen. It's funny how there's a divide and it's generational, right? And then you notice it across the board. I don't know if you saw the clip. There was a clip on CNN where they actually interviewed somebody on the street, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm not really a fan," which was funny.
Yeah.
And by the way, that excruciating death thing, that's the warm and fuzzy. You should. There is a clip out there, and too bad you guys probably won't understand it because it's in Spanish, but it's of some Argentines, and they weren't really sad. They were still bitter over the Falklands, still bitter over a bunch of other stuff, and were like, "Ding dong, the witch is dead." So I was like, "Wow!" In Spanish, and you're like, to listen to that's like a whole different level. So yeah, I agree with Dave, man. Listen, no, I'm not wishing hateful stuff on anybody. The lady died, 96 years, whatever. Godspeed. But let's not go ahead and exalt the crown. I mean, this is just is amazing. They're tax free. Let's not forget that you love Diana, but she didn't love Diana. Let's not forget that. You know what I'm saying? All these people are, oh my God, and now you're crying with the Queen too. That wasn't cute. She didn't like the Harry's wife either. So let's not all forget about what the firm is all about. All right. So it's to me, it's just complete hypocrisy. And let's talk about how they're a tax-free situation there. You know what I'm saying? So bad stuff.
Well, I'm sure that they're doing cuts on their national health system, the nurses, and they're doing all these austerity measures, that were under Boris, and then their new I believe prime minister that is coming in, Liz, she is somebody that was picked by the establishment. She wasn't elected. So she was picked by the establishment, and what is she famous for? One of the things they picked her for was she wants to do tax cuts for the rich. That's one of the main things she wants to do. Of course.
Her background is interesting, by the way. You should look it up.
I did hear that she used to be like a Green.
She was,
person.
Sort of right? On the other side, and then she all of a sudden now she's on this side. So just looking for her history. It's interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like a cinema situation. Let me go today. Oh, yeah.
So I think it's important for the people like Hannity and who have that ideology where they're like, I can't believe it's the Queen. I think what they don't understand is that for many of the countries that they colonize, and for many of the younger people who are now more aware and aren't blinded by the propaganda of nationalism, that this woman herself singularly represented an old guard and establishment. Like, she literally started with Winston Churchill, and she's now at this new lady. Like, she's made it. She might have walked and talked with Jesus at school. Like, that's how long she's been there. And for most people, that's all they've known their whole life. And so while it can be a comforting, consistent figure, maybe throughout times of transition from a like British nationalist standpoint, that doesn't excuse the fact that while simultaneously representing a high aspirational aspect or a fantasy of being a king or queen, it's also actively oppressing certain people despite not actually having governmental power. And I think they don't understand why this woman herself singularly represents that for people, because all of the members have their own dirt. But I think it's important to realize that she was the matriarch, and there's a reason why people are celebrating, to be quite honest, her demise. I mean, if somebody was oppressing you for 50 years and then somebody says, oh, they're done, I'm pretty sure most people would be happy as well.
Exactly. So I'm going to play actually something that leaked out on mainstream media that was actually positive in what we would like to see, something that we would like to see more of in mainstream media of this narrative that we're talking about right now.
It's a weakness in the American character that still yearns for that era.
Oh, let me start it over.
You played a clip of her speaking in Cape Town in 1947 in South Africa. Right. That's the year apartheid took effect in South Africa. That was something British colonialism ushered in. British colonialism, which she presided over for all these years, had a terrible effect on much of the world. It's something that people revolt from. And I have to say, to your earlier question, why are American news networks dedicating all of this time to Queen Elizabeth's funeral? I think it's a good question. I mean, you know, I think it's something, there's a weakness in the American character that still yearns for that era of hereditary privilege, which is the very thing that we escaped from.
Look,
thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
that is
Yeah.
that is exactly what I was actually going to chime in about. I actually think Hannity knows exactly what he's doing. I think Hannity knows that she represents European quote unquote dominance. And with the Fox viewers, they love that. I mean, that's their thing. That's why they watch Fox. That's why they, tune in. And I think if it was, because think about it, if it was any other monarch of any other place, that didn't have that type of history of subjugation of people of color, Hannity wouldn't have cared. He probably wouldn't even covered it. He probably wouldn't even talked about it. But, he talked about it in this instance because it's Europe. It's the UK, right? It's a dog whistle that really speaks to their audience, and it shows it again touches on that fear of like, look at those crazy leftists. They want to bring down everything that's great about whiteness, that's great about Europe, that's great about all of this. It's a very subtle dog whistle, and I think he knows exactly what he's doing by harping on it, because he wouldn't care if it was any other monarch of any other place that didn't have such a controversial history. Or really, it's not controversial, it's exploitative and their history of oppression. So I actually think Hannity knows exactly what he's doing with that, which means that's why our side has to be very, very real about calling spade a spade. If we're not doing it, the Sean Hannitys of the world and those folks, they are 100%, they have no shame about using a dog whistle. Yeah. That's why we have to use real whistles to call out things when, it's nonsense.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm going to just show a couple videos. I don't even have to show the sound, or not show the sound. I don't have to play the sound because all you need to see is the footage, right? And this is basically somebody in the crowd who was heckling the Queen's coffin. And this is, Britain's supposed to be a democracy, right? Freedom of speech, right? So you're supposed to be able to say whatever you want to say, but it's almost like how the cops. And there was a video we watched, I believe it was the last show, when a kid put up the middle finger at a cop. That's freedom of expression. This is America. You're supposed to be able to do that and not worry about consequences. But here's a guy who was heckling the coffin, and he got manhandled. And this is another scene. See how he got boom tugged out of the audience, gone. And then you don't have to hear what he says, but I'm just going to read this. A woman who held an abolish monarchy sign at a proclamation ceremony for King Charles said has now been charged with a criminal offense, right? So this is a democracy. What happened to freedom of speech? What's going on over there?
They don't have it, I thought, over there. It's not constitutionally enshrined the way that it is here. I will say...
Yeah, you're right. Like, when you can slander somebody, I believe, and you can actually get in trouble, right, Day?
Yes,
I think that's what
they're definitely more litigious, and they're definitely more censorial when it comes to that. Now, I will say, fairly, it was tacky. Like, I thought he was touching the coffin, and I was like, okay, that's kind of tacky. And honestly, in fairness, I probably wouldn't be that trashy to the family because I know they're actually grieving. But you're right; he still has the right to do it. They know what time she's on. Hey,
right.
So, but I mean, I would have probably been like, wait till they come out the funeral or something. They're already crying.
By the way, let's not fool ourselves. All right. Yeah, we have that whole like you could speak your mind, because that's why we left those guys, right? Because they weren't allowing us to do anything. But anyway, we have that here. Don't get it twisted. If you were at the Bush's funeral or something and you started getting crazy, they pull you out too. So
yeah. I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Hey, listen.
All right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. The last word on the monarchy.
Oh, I was going to say, listen, I'll be the bad cop in this situation. I'll be the bad guy here. She is a political figure. All right. That's not like, like the old woman down the street died and you showed up at her funeral and tried to kick her coffin. Like, she's a political figure who presided over things like apartheid, right? Like, people are going to get turned up. It's a lot different than just like the regular niceties that you would have just for some regular degular. Like, she has done things that not only ruin people's lives, but ruin lives for generations. So, I don't feel, one iota of, remorse for that. I mean, could he be nicer? Sure. Could they have been nicer to the, countries and not colonize them? Absolutely. So, and could they be nicer now? Right. I mean, there are two nations in the Caribbean that have called on them for reparations at this point, and they've given them silence. So, they could be nicer now, and they're not choosing to do that. So it's politics. Politics is a boxing ring. It is not a yoga studio. You step into the boxing ring, you better be ready to box.
She gave up the fight though, but that's okay.
I love it. Fox Soul is in the building. The AKA Ice Queen is in the building. I love it. I love it. I'm with Imani on this one, but let's move on to the topics. So I want to play this clip, and we're going to talk about how John Tester, and then there's a Bloomberg pundit who's basically saying that, progressives are going to have to eat crow. They're going to have to pass this continuing resolution, also known as the CR, because Joe Manchin and Chuck Schumer got this side deal that they just have to push through. So let me put on that clip right now.
Vote from Joe Manchin. There was discussion of a side deal that he had with the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. So now that's coming into play because we have federal government funding running out September 30th. Yeah, I don't think any of us think a big deal is going to get done before then. So probably a short-term continuing resolution measure. But does this side deal now, which Joe Manchin had, which would expedite leases and permitting and that kind of thing, get tied into that funding bill? It's taking heat from both sides. Senator Lindsey Graham says this: I will not vote for a continuing resolution that's part of a political payback scheme. Those were his words. From the other direction, Senator Bernie Sanders calls it a disastrous side deal. This is what you said. My guess is if it's on our CR, they're going to have to eat it if they don't like it.
I was referring to the House.
So okay, party. Yeah, because there's opposition in the House too.
Yes, that's right.
So how does the funding get done?
So here's what I think. I think there's things we can do on the permitting process that will make the permitting process more streamlined and allow for more production.
All right, blah, blah, blah. He's going to say a lot of political speak. Let me go to the Bloomberg guy.
Okay, so Rick, you're a veteran. Give some advice to Chuck Schumer and to Nancy Pelosi. What should they do as the leaders?
Oh, I think they got to just swallow the pill, give Manchin his deal, and get their caucus in some kind of shape to pass this CR. I mean, the president does have almost $50 billion worth of spending that he wants to pass through the CR, including $13 billion for Ukraine. And so if we want to keep up the process of supporting Ukraine with more ammunition and weapon systems, they gotta pay for it somehow, and this is going to be one of the hooks to get maybe a couple of Republicans to vote. So they gotta pass the package as the deal was with Schumer and Manchin, and quit whining. They got a massive bill in the form of the Inflation Reduction Act, which they are going out and campaigning on for their reelection. So they really ought to just shut up and take a win.
Okay, so
you all gotta shut up and take a win, Imani. What is going on here?
The way people talk to progressives, honestly, they're not afraid enough of progressives. Like, I'm just gonna say it. Like, they are not afraid enough of progressives. That means progressives, we really need to stop being so nice to these folks. I mean, one of my biggest gripes, with progressives over the last, year or so has been like, we're trying too much to kind of get in on their good side and work with them and compromise. And again, like, that is not how politics works. I know that's how they teach us in school, right? I know that they teach us in school. It is about compromise. It's about, you give a little and we give a little, and then at the end of the day, truth wins. And that's not how this works in real life. In real life, you make the other person scream uncle until you get your way. That's how politics actually works. And the establishment has no problem doing that to us. Republicans definitely don't have a problem doing that, right? I think, progressives, we really need to step up our power game when it comes to stuff like this, because they're not afraid. That's why they talk to us like that. But on the kind of merits of his argument, it's absolute nonsense, from the fact that it's too expensive. I don't know how many times we have to talk about this, but everybody should get the book, The Deficit Myth, read it. It will tell you all about how federal dollars work, and that we can absolutely afford to better our country, especially when it comes to the environment, especially when it comes to Medicare for all, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So get that book, read it, commit it to memory. So whenever you hear that nonsense, you're like, absolutely not. That is definitely not true. And then also, these pipelines, by the way, are running through mostly Black, brown, and indigenous communities that have been organizing to actually stop this from happening, right? So it's not even like they're running just like through anywhere, through some wilderness where nobody can touch it, although that wouldn't matter because it would still ruin the ecosystem. But again, there are people who have been voicing that this is bad and here is why for a long time, and it's getting ignored because for some reason Democrats are afraid of Joe Manchin. They'll go and try to replace a progressive like that. They will send the horde to replace a progressive like that. But Joe Manchin, they're just so afraid of, they won't put any resources towards replacing that man or punishing him in any way. It's so interesting.
Yeah, definitely 100% big pun. What you think about this right here?
I agree. They're more scared of Manchin than they are the other side, and it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's sad to see. It's horrible when you see that, right?
Now, I think totally that the fact that, like Imani said, they're not scared of progressives. And then in that Bloomberg, like, what if Bernie said, okay, this is a CR resolution, it has to pass. Guess what? I want you guys to do Medicare for all. Put that in the bill. Otherwise, I'm not going to vote for this. Now, you're going to see the all hell break loose on mainstream media all over the place. Like, oh, this irrational. Bernie Sanders wants to give everybody health care.
Radical.
Yeah, radical. Where the times that I've seen it, which is these two times, the only way, the frame that is being framed in, the way it's being framed is, oh, it has to be done because Manchin won't vote for it, or it has to be done because there's already a deal, or they just have to eat crow. They just have to do it. They will never say that if it was Bernie. Even, okay, let's not even go with Medicare for all. That's a huge policy. Let's say universal child care. If Bernie says, hey, I'm not, you know what? If you're going to put this horrible thing in this CR, at least give me universal child care. I still think mainstream media is going to have like their hair on fire and go crazy.
And to be fair,
what you think, Dave? Oh, go ahead, Imani.
To be fair, Ro Khanna and Bernie Sanders actually both did say that they would vote no on this must-pass legislation, so they actually are prepared to fight. Ro Khanna also endorsed the TYT petition as well, so shout out to Ro Khanna for that. So, there is a large coalition building. I believe at this point, 72 Democrats have actually signed on to a letter by Representative Grijalva asking Nancy Pelosi, hey, don't do this. So, I mean, there's a lot of people saying it, and not all of them are like solid progressives. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Nancy Pelosi does, because why are we letting Joe Manchin run the show? Replace him. They don't hesitate to replace anybody else. They don't hesitate to punish anybody else. Punish Joe Manchin. Replace Joe Manchin.
Yeah, I think
do what you got to do.
I think that 100%. I think that and actually TYT knows Richard Ojeda, who he ran last time and against Swearengin, and he lost to Swearengin. And I would think that because he has ties, he used to be a state legislator in West Virginia, he might have a better chance of winning, and because he's already kind of tied to the politics there, he might be a good person to challenge Joe Manchin. I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there, because I can't really imagine somebody coming from the very ground up to now have to try to build name recognition and all that stuff while Richard already has it. I know he ran a couple times, so he might be tired, but we'll see what happens. Let me go to Day to wrap up this topic.
Yeah, I wanted to touch back on what Imani said in the beginning. Like, despite having the majority of American support when it comes to the policies, I think that the progressive movement does not effectively understand the power behind communications. And I say that because they're often unwilling to set the narrative. I feel like every time progressives have something that they like, that they already know is popular, they don't go out there and aggressively make the other people defend the wrong position. What they often are doing is that they allow Republicans and corporate Democrats to set the narrative, to already bias the viewers of the news because they trust these people, and they prime them to believe it's whether it's too costly, oh, it's green new garbage, exact blah, blah, blah. And now you have progressives on the defensive. And that sucks because oftentimes progressives are not given the same type of mainstream coverage the same way that, say, their corporate Dems are. And so if they don't get out and make a lot of noise, and to the point that they have to be covered, I think that was one of the tactics we learned from Trump. Trump made them talk about him. And you have people like AOC with millions of followers. You have people like Rashida Tlaib, all the people. Go out there and make the offensive case. Like, make them, if you really believe in it, make them have to defend doing the thing that's unpopular.
Yeah, 100%. David, before I move on,
sure, I can. I was gonna say,
yeah.
I'm not a good enough singer to start singing "I'm Just a Bill" sitting on Capitol. So I'll leave that to Dave.
Don't do it, David. Don't do it.
Right? But no, I was just thinking, I was like, why is it that we can't seem to even do the basics of funding the government? I know I said last week or a couple weeks ago that I was like, I'm at least optimistic that some of these basic things are being done, or that there are some good things happening. I'm like, I am. Like, I think that shows that the government can work when the people that we elect to represent us actually do their jobs. And so, like, I think that there's that. And I also think about, like, I also talked about a couple of weeks ago, I was like, especially with like the deficit myth. I said, our money is literally, once we left the gold standard, our money is literally backed in like unicorns, rainbows, and farts. Like, it doesn't really mean anything. Like, you just print more. And so I was like, I understand like not infusing the system with just a ton of cash, because I'm like, that is going to reduce the value of an actual dollar. But wasn't our entire taxation system designed in order to take from the people who have the most and infuse it back into the society for the people who are the most vulnerable? And I think that's what a healthy society looks like, when you have a functioning taxation system that is funded enough to go after these people who are known like tax dodgers, who like millionaires and billionaires are the ones who have the largest bulk of unpaid taxes. And so I was like, when over the course of 40 years, when you have consistently defunded all of these organizations that are supposed to provide for some sort of economic equity, it like, no wonder we're in the situation that we are, with like wealth gaps that are what they are back in the Gilded Age. Like, I think that's where a lot of this needs to start.
I think this is a good question to read, and then move on to our final topic, because man, time flies. Joy to the World said, do progressives in DC even talk to progressive base anymore? I see them on social media and CNN sometimes, but do they go to progressive media to really expand their base? And this is what we're going to talk about right now, about strategy and come together. And Imani was talking before about organizing, and that part of her job. And then I want to also play this clip to kind of start off this conversation as well. So let me go to the clipboard. The whole thing.
There's a back loop between the far left and the far right that's often used to justify the other's rise. And because politics is perception, Americans see both parties as similarly extreme. But to a large extent, this is a fight in a hall of mirrors, all partisan distortion driven by emotion. The fact is that the far left and the far right do not have remotely the same political strength in their parties, and this year's primaries provide the receipts. Now, this cycle, we've seen plenty of evidence that Trump's election lies are the GOP's litmus test. One recent analysis by the Washington Post found that 39 election deniers won their House primaries, and that's just in 6 key swing states. By comparison, the far left is falling far short. Now, the so-called squad may play a starring role in Republican attack ads, but they're more famous than powerful. And by my count, there are just 7 House Democrats who officially support defunding the police, but 147 Republicans. voted to overturn the election after the attack on our Capitol.
All right. I'm gonna stop it there, but he goes on to talk about how, the progressives don't have a lot of strength, but kind of curious how he doesn't mention all the big money coming from APAC, for example. We saw that in Nina Turner's race and in several other races this year, this election cycle. And thankfully, some people even overcame it. Like I think Summer Lee was one of the people that overcame some of that dark money. So, but he didn't mention Summer Lee, and then there's other people that recently joined the progressive, kind of the squattish adjacent kind of people that also won their primaries. But what I want to now pivot to is just, and we could go anywhere with this conversation, strategy, progressive strategy, and also in the chat, if you have any questions or want to bring up anything as well. I know Day and I, we were in Brianna Joy Gray's call-in debrief, and we were talking about how we need to start organizing now for 2024. We need to kind of identify who we want to run. My personal, what I would like to see is, I want to see what the establishment do. I want us to do the same thing the establishment do, which is basically they would throw up a good 4, 5, 6 candidates, see who rises to the top, and then whoever rises to the top on a steady basis, they say, okay, this is our horse, we're going to go with that one. So for example, Kamala had a little rise, but then she dipped. Then Pete Buttigieg towards the end, like while he won the first race, with kind of tied with Bernie, but we almost saw that he was the person, right? While they had a lot of people that also ran that were establishment, but they never went anywhere. So the establishment knew, okay, you guys didn't go anywhere, we're not going to pick you. So for example, if they would have just picked, matter of fact, this happened in 2016. They literally just wanted Hillary Clinton and she lost. If they would have allowed more people to run, maybe Hillary would have dropped off earlier and somebody else would have had a better chance. And I'm not even being biased towards Bernie. I'm just saying anybody who would have ran, if they'd have had more people. It was just Bernie, it was Hillary, it was I'm forgetting the name. There was like 3 other people that initially started running.
The Malley guy.
O'Malley, thank you so much. And they didn't let anybody else run, so it definitely didn't give them a chance to win. But I talked enough. I'm gonna go to Dave first, because I know we were kind of talking about this, and then I'm going to go to Imani next, and we're going to keep going from there. So go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's no secret. Generally speaking, I believe that I agree with you that we best win by a plurality, and letting the plurality come from the establishment candidates just having way too many people in the field while we focus on one singular progressive candidate. My personal pick has been and will continue to probably be Marianne Williamson, for a couple of reasons and skill sets that she has. I think I said on the call-in episode, there are like 3 strong tenets that I think we should just be pushing, because at the end of the day, the people can't just hear these things in 2024. They need to already be primed to understand these policies and understand more importantly, the benefit to their lives. So for me, I'd run on a healthy America. I really love the fact that she talked about, sick care versus a healthcare system. That's what we have. It's a sick care system. And I think she could use COVID and the opioid crisis as a metaphor for how essentially we have a weakened immune system, and things attacking our collective health are profit-driven care, anxiety of coverage, inaccessibility to doctors. There's a way that she talks to people, whether they're Republican, Democrat, Black, white, etc. We've watched her in these spaces, and she's comfortable just conversing on a person-to-person level. I have more on the health part, but for brevity, I will say I would prioritize peace. I think we've all seen the negative impacts of war, and I think she should really hammer home. Like, we didn't really learn from Vietnam, evident by Iraq and Afghanistan. And I want her to get out there and say, I promise we will learn from the mistakes of this past 20-year war. We will learn from Russia and the Ukraine situation. And I think that the American people do have an appetite for peace, because what separates us from other countries is we are lulled into this sense of security because we're not often attacked on homeland. And I think she could really drive that home and push that message worldwide. And lastly, I think she should run relentlessly on infrastructure. Just get a buy-in from the American people to have the best infrastructure in the world. I think Americans work best when we are excited on a project, similar to JFK and the moon. Like, this could be the federal job situation is we need people to work on this infrastructure. and get that American spirit to unite us and call it freedom. Because honestly, you're not free if you can't travel the country that you live in.
100%. I just what you were talking about infrastructure. Look at our wonderful infrastructure in Jackson, Mississippi right now.
They drinking coffee out the faucet.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Go ahead, Imani. Let me go to Imani next.
Yeah, I don't have a pick yet. Just because I have to see what the landscape is like. Like, is the party gonna force Joe out, or is he gonna run? Are they gonna put Kamala up? Are they gonna put Pete up? Because for me, who the establishment pick is, we should make decisions based off of that. Like, who is the best person to beat Pete Buttigieg? Who's the best person to beat Kamala Harris? Who's the best person to beat Joe? So I don't have a pick yet. But what I will say with regards to why Republicans win their races, a lot more than progressives, Republicans don't put their efforts into fighting their own party. Like, that's why the Tea Party rose. They came together, grassroots, and the Republicans in power saw that and were like, hey, if we get more people from the party to win, whatever, have at it. And now we have people storming the Capitol, right? Whereas Democrats, on the other hand, they completely snuff out the part of their party that really inspires people. And we're trying to do good things. We're not trying to storm the Capitol. We're trying to feed people. We're trying to make sure people are clothed and housed. And and Democrats fight people in their party tooth and nail just so they can maintain power. Whereas Republicans have opened their eyes to the fact that if they are more open to the more quote unquote inspiring part of their party, they will actually maintain power because they're going to win in more places and more seats. And Democrats just won't let go of the ideas of wait your turn. And, we're going to get in there. We're going to do a little bit of this. We're going to do a little bit of that. We're not really going to go far at all. They just won't let go of that. And that's why we lose. So it really has nothing to do with progressive messaging. Again, progressive policy is very popular, extremely popular. Even the squad is very popular. Bernie is very popular, right? Even the people that are actually in there who are progressives are actually very popular. But the thing is, the party doesn't want that popularity to grow because there's the people who are in charge are self-interested and they actually don't care about growing this thing so that we can actually have good things for everyday people.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing that I thought about when you were speaking as well is that the difference, and I think part of why the Republican Party is less concerned with rigging their primaries is because at the end of the day, whoever they get in there are still going to enact the same policies that the establishment Republicans will do as well. Look at Trump. He was essentially George W. Bush. I said there's a fundamental difference between a progressive getting into office, or an overwhelming amount of progressives getting into office, and changing the policies that are actually advocated for or actually become law. So I think you were totally right on that.
100% big pun.
Yeah, agreeing with what was being said. The big boogeyman for both sides is those socialists, those people that want to feed people and give people health care and do all the things that are really right. You know what I'm saying? That stuff, so yeah, our side, the Democratic side will rule that out. They will rule that out. But hey, the other side, hey, you guys are white nationalists? Come on in. Plenty of room for you. Plenty of room. They'll take anybody in to win. And we will not embrace anybody because once they have that tag, then that's it. It goes against everything we believe in. Which I don't know. We didn't believe in feeding people, but all right, cool. It's messed up. It's completely messed up. But yeah, I agree. I think that we have to go ahead and take a look at who they're going to push and see what's going on, and then go ahead and then bring that thunder. And it's like you said, it's like those guys are popular. Bernie's popular, AOC's popular, but are they powerful? We have to put the power behind the popularity.
Yeah. As an everyday American, I was gonna say I would probably consider myself as part of the large majority of people that don't want Biden or Trump to run again. I don't know who I would necessarily support. I'm kind of with Day. I'm leaning toward Marianne. Something that I thought was interesting that that clip kept saying was the far left. And I was like, what is the far left? And how is it? And I think that this is what Imani's been talking about. I was like, how is it that we are letting them define us instead of letting us define ourselves? And I also think it's interesting when you think about fundraising and money in politics. And I'm like, if the only way that you can access Act Blue is as a Democrat, what sort of funding mechanisms are there for people who want to run as independent candidates who maybe lean left or who identify as leftists but don't want to necessarily identify as Democrats, but will end up voting for Democrats in most elections because those are who align most closely. So it's like, I think that it's important to say like the far left and the far right are like, they are not the same in terms of the extremes. And so, yeah, so I think that's where my thoughts are.
Yeah, 100%. Let me just read what John, much love to you, buddy. John from the chat says she needs to, I think he's talking about Marianne Williamson. She needs to find a way to get people excited. She is awesome, but man, she's very boring when she speaks.
I would push back on that. I've seen her in person actually quite a few times, once at the Medicare for All rally, once actually at a Black church at Howard University. And she rouses a crowd. I think it's her not feeling like she has to tamper down who she is and like try to combat whatever wacky caricature they create of her. Because I'm like, when she speaks at these places, they get standing ovations, etc. And I was like, it was very powerful to see her in person. So, but her messaging, that is going to be important.
Cool. So I'm gonna start wrapping up the show. But so my pick that I would love to see, and this person that didn't, decide to run yet, but Matthew Hoh definitely impressed me when he got frauded, and he's still running for the Senate seat as a Green Party candidate. But I really like him, and he seems to get a lot of respect from a lot of different areas of the left. But and also I wanted to just finish off my point. I realized that I didn't finish off the point, so I would like to see us throw all these people up. You have Marianne Williamson, Matthew Hoh, Nina Turner, other people who wanted to run, have them do debates. Like maybe have TYT sponsor the debates, or have Brianna Joy Gray. There's many independent media who I would love to see them go on different shows and debate each other, and then we can use our own ranked choice voting system. And I don't know how the infrastructure is going to be done exactly, but a ranked choice voting infrastructure system, so we could pick that one person and then we all get behind them. Because if you guys remember, and Imani, I would love to actually know what you thought about this. When New York did their primary a couple of weeks ago, and they had the district where Mondale Jones ran in, there was a whole bunch of progressives that ran, and they watered down the vote, and an establishment, the Levi Air, he got in there. So like, we definitely need to find a way that we can consolidate the vote beforehand, and then pick that one person and move on. Can you speak on that real quick? Because we didn't have you available. I'm just curious what you thought about that situation. Oh, I'm sorry, you're muted. I'm muted.
There we go.
I got you. Go ahead now, buddy.
Cool.
Yeah.
See, it was too hot. You had to cut it off. It was too hot. I was about to say. No, but I mean, I think it really comes down to sometimes if you are a leftist, you consider yourself a leftist, like, get your career out of your mind. Get your own ego out of your mind. If you see a district and it's like, all right, there's already a progressive there and they're really good, why are you going to run there? Why are you going to run there? Just to dilute the vote so that somebody who definitely is not good for that district could win? What's the point of that? Yeah. There's no point.
Mondale should have stayed in his district, right?
I think that Mondale should have stayed in his district. But I also think this is true not only of him. I've seen this happen in multiple places. I saw it happen in my race, frankly. Like, if you know that you are not as good for whatever reason, whether that's raising the money, whether that's, you're not as good on the issues, whether that's, you haven't been as active, whatever it is, like, be honest with yourself. Put your ego in your pocket and say straight up, like, I'm going to step out of this. I'm going to do everything I can to help this person, or I'm going to go run in this other place where, like, we actually do need a progressive to run and there's nobody there right now, etc. Like, go do that. Stop crowding the field because of whatever personal thing you got going on. I think if we can get to that place where people can look and say, you know what, like, I'm gonna step off because something good is going on right here and I don't want to insert myself and mess that up, we'll be good. But we can't step on each other's toes.
I wish we could have a organization just dedicated to leftists running, and all they do is like do a ranked choice voting for all these different districts and for the presidential level and all these other levels, to say, hey, maybe 4 to 6 months, and you might know better than me, Imani, how much time you would need to consolidate behind one person, and have people sign up to this website for free, Now you're a ranking file leftist. Vote for who you would want, and then boom, we galvanize behind that one person and we move forward. Like, we'll see what happens. All right, so much love to everybody in chat. Let me give a shout out to Joy to the World, Rafael Rodriguez, John P. Much love to you, Holly, PJ. Holly was in the building. Abel was in the building, along with a whole bunch of other people. Let me see. I saw some new faces. Ray, what's up? And RB, I believe RB was in the building. Also, let me just show the Patreons. Nancy Vancher, Deborah B, PJ Krish, Akibash Akita, Zachary Gustin, and Shanika Thompson. Thank you so much for being Patreon members. And thank you to everybody in the chat, including our guest, Imani Oakley. Thank you so much for coming on. It was great having you. Yes. David, thank you for coming on. Big Pun Day. Let me give you all the last words. So Imani, you go first as our guest.
Listen, it's always a pleasure coming on here. I love coming on here talking strategy, talking politics. So thank you for having me as always. Anybody in the chat want to keep up with me, you can follow me at Imani Oakley NJ10. You can also please go to tyt.com/petitions. Tell Nancy Pelosi not to force progressives to vote no, and then keep up with our campaigns, and we'll rock from there.
Awesome. All right, David.
Yeah, I loved the conversation tonight. Thank you again for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Big Pun.
Awesome to be here. Love being here with David, Imani, Case. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, much love to you, Dave. Last word.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Great meeting you, Imani, and of course the whole panel. And I hope everyone has a blessed rest of their week.
Yeah, so everybody in the chat, much love to you. Much love to my panel. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. Love and solidarity, radical solidarity. Solidarity by any means necessary. Kill your ego. Much love to you. Have a great